Hello and welcome to the Sleep and Wonder channel. As you settle in, allow your breathing to slow and let the noise of the day gently drift into the distance. There is nothing you need to follow closely, nothing you need to remember, only a quiet space opening one breath at a time. Tonight we'll be entering the world of mountains, vast, ancient formations shaped by time, pressure, and patience. Places where the earth rises slowly, and where change happens over millions of years rather than moments. We'll explore how mountains are formed, how they carry deep geological time within their layers, and how altitude shapes climate, water, and life. We'll move through valleys and slopes, follow the paths of rivers born from snow and stone, and observe how entire landscapes are quietly influenced by these elevated places. Along the way, we'll visit mountain ranges across the world, from the vast heights of the Himalayas to the long spine of the Andes and the sculpted forms of the Alps, each different, yet connected by the same slow rhythms of the planet. As this journey unfolds, you may notice your thoughts becoming softer, your breath deeper, your body responding to the same steady pace that mountains have followed for ages beyond memory. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're gently invited to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, simply breathe in and breathe out. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts slow and grow lighter as we begin this calm ascent into the still expansive world of mountains. Let's begin. Mountains are not sudden events. They do not appear within a lifetime or even within the memory of civilizations. Their formation belongs to a scale of time that moves slowly, almost beyond perception, shaped by forces that work patiently beneath the surface of the earth. Long before a mountain becomes visible, its story begins deep underground. The outer layer of the planet, known as the Earth's crust, is not a single unbroken shell. It is divided into large sections called tectonic plates. These plates move continuously, though at a pace so slow it often goes unnoticed, only a few centimeters each year. Over millions of years, however, these small movements accumulate, reshaping the surface of the planet. Where tectonic plates meet, pressure builds. In some places, plates drift apart, allowing magma to rise and create new crust. In others, one plate slides beneath another, sinking slowly into the mantle. And in certain regions, two plates collide head-on. When this happens, neither plate easily gives way. Instead, the crust begins to fold, thicken, and rise. This gradual uplift is one of the primary ways mountains are born. The process is slow and quiet. Layers of rock are compressed, bent, and stacked over immense spans of time. What was once seabed can be lifted thousands of meters into the air. Fossils of marine life are sometimes found high in mountain ranges, silent evidence of this long ascent. Mountains carry the memory of ancient oceans. As the crust thickens, it becomes buoyant, rising upward much like a piece of wood floating on water. This vertical movement does not happen all at once. It unfolds in stages, interrupted by long periods of relative stillness. A mountain range may continue rising for tens of millions of years before reaching its greatest height. Even then, the process does not truly stop. At the same time that mountains are being lifted from below, they are shaped from above. Wind, rain, ice, and temperature changes begin to wear down their surfaces. This process, known as erosion, is not destructive in the dramatic sense. It is patient and persistent, carving, smoothing, and redistributing material grain by grain. Mountain building is always balanced by mountain wearing. This constant interaction between uplift and erosion gives mountains their varied forms. Sharp peaks may emerge where rock is resistant and uplift is strong. Rounded slopes develop where erosion has had more time to soften the landscape. Valleys form as water follows natural fractures, slowly deepening its path. The shape of a mountain tells the story of these opposing forces. Some mountains rise from volcanic activity. In these cases, molten rock travels upward through the crust and reaches the surface, cooling and solidifying over time. Layer upon layer accumulates, building height gradually. Volcanic mountains often stand alone or form chains, shaped by repeated eruptions, separated by long periods of calm. Other mountains form through the folding and faulting of sedimentary rock, compressed over immense distances. These ranges often stretch across continents, forming long, continuous systems that influence climate, water flow, and life far beyond their slopes. Regardless of how they form, mountains share one defining characteristic. They are records of pressure applied slowly. Unlike sudden geological events, such as earthquakes or landslides, mountain formation is almost imperceptible from a human perspective. No sound announces their growth. No visible movement marks their rise. The land lifts so gradually that life has time to adapt as it happens. This slowness is essential. As mountains rise, they begin to alter the atmosphere around them. Air moving across the surface is forced upward, cooling as it ascends. Clouds form. Rain and snow become more frequent on windward slopes. Over time, this interaction between land and sky shapes local and regional climates. The birth of mountains is also the beginning of new weather patterns. Temperature decreases with elevation. At higher altitudes, seasons become more pronounced. Snow may persist year-round in certain regions, compressing into ice and forming glaciers. These glaciers, in turn, become powerful agents of erosion, carving deep valleys and transporting rock over vast distances. In this way, mountains give rise to entirely new landscapes. As the terrain lifts and changes, rivers begin to form. Meltwater from snow and ice gathers in channels, flowing downward along paths shaped by gravity and geology. These rivers extend the influence of mountains far beyond their base, carrying minerals and sediments into lowlands. A mountain's impact does not end at its foothills. Over millions of years, entire ecosystems emerge in response to these changes. Plants adapt to thinner air, colder temperatures, and stronger winds. Animals develop behaviors and physical traits suited to steep terrain and seasonal extremes. Life organizes itself around the contours created by rising land. All of this unfolds gradually, without interruption. It is important to understand that mountains are not static objects. Even after they reach great heights, they continue to change. Tectonic forces may persist, pushing upward, while erosion continues its quiet work. In some regions, mountains are still rising today. In others, they are slowly being worn down, their material returning to the oceans from which it once came. A mountain is never finished. This balance between creation and transformation gives mountains their sense of permanence. Though they are constantly changing, the pace of that change is slow enough to feel stable. Generation after generation passes beneath their slopes while the mountains remain, holding the long memory of the earth within their layers. When we look at mountains, we are not just seeing elevation, we are seeing time made visible. The birth of mountains reminds us that the planet operates on rhythms far older and slower than our own, that pressure does not need to be violent to be powerful, that change does not need to be fast to be profound. And as these immense structures continue their gradual rise and reshaping, they set the stage for everything that follows: climate, water, life, and the quiet sense of scale that mountains inspire simply by existing. In understanding how mountains are born, we begin to sense why they feel so enduring. Their origins lie not in sudden moments, but in patience, pressure applied steadily, over time, until the land itself learns to rise. Time behaves differently in the mountains, not because clocks stop working there, but because the processes that shape mountain landscapes unfold on scales far removed from human urgency. In these elevated places, time stretches outward, measured not in days or years, but in slow accumulation, steady pressure, and gradual change. To understand mountains is to encounter time in its most patient form. The rocks that form mountain ranges often began their journey long before the land rose into the air. Sediments settled at the bottom of ancient seas, layer upon layer, compressing under their own weight. Minerals crystallized slowly. Heat and pressure transformed soft deposits into solid stone. These materials waited underground for millions of years before tectonic forces lifted them toward the sky. By the time a mountain becomes visible, its history is already immense. Once uplift begins, the passage of time becomes written into the landscape itself. Slopes rise gradually. Valleys deepen at an almost imperceptible pace. Rivers carve their paths grain by grain, carrying tiny fragments of rock downstream. Ice expands and contracts with the seasons, slowly reshaping the terrain. Nothing happens quickly enough to be noticed in a single moment. This slowness allows mountains to serve as natural archives. Each layer of rock, each folded ridge, each eroded surface holds information about past conditions. Temperature, pressure, water, and movement leave subtle marks that persist long after the original forces have passed. Time leaves traces, not scars. In many mountain ranges, these traces appear as distinct rock layers, tilted or folded by immense forces. In others, they emerge as smooth, rounded forms shaped by centuries of wind and ice. Sharp peaks may indicate younger landscapes or resistant rock. Softer profiles often signal greater age or prolonged exposure to erosion. The shape of a mountain is a visible record of how long it has been exposed to the elements. Unlike living organisms, mountains do not age toward an end point. They do not grow old in a biological sense. Instead, they transition continuously, rising, wearing down, rising again, or gradually dissolving back into the Earth's surface. This cyclical movement blurs the idea of beginning and end. A mountain does not progress toward completion. It simply continues. This continuity creates a unique relationship with time. In the mountains, past, present, and future overlap. A single slope may contain rock formed hundreds of millions of years ago, shaped by ice tens of thousands of years ago, and altered by wind and water just moments ago. All of these times coexist in the same space. Seasonal cycles add another layer to this temporal complexity. Snow accumulates in winter, compressing slowly under its own weight. In spring and summer, meltwater flows downward, feeding streams and rivers. Each year repeats this pattern, yet no two seasons are exactly alike. Over centuries, these small variations accumulate, subtly reshaping the land. Glaciers offer one of the clearest examples of time made visible in mountains. Moving at speeds often measured in centimeters per day, glaciers carve valleys, polish rock surfaces, and transport massive amounts of material. Their motion is slow but relentless. What feels still is often in motion. As glaciers advance and retreat, they leave behind distinctive landforms, U-shaped valleys, moraines, and smooth rock faces. These features persist long after the ice has vanished, marking where time once moved in a frozen state. Even when glaciers disappear, their influence remains embedded in the landscape. Erosion, too, works on long timelines. Wind carries fine particles that gradually wear down exposed surfaces. Rain seeps into cracks, freezing and expanding, slowly widening fractures. Gravity pulls loose material downhill, redistributing mass over centuries. Each of these processes is gentle on its own. Together, they reshape entire ranges. The passage of time in mountains is also reflected in stability. Slopes that have existed for long periods tend to settle into balanced forms. Loose material finds its place. Vegetation establishes itself in predictable zones. The environment reaches a dynamic equilibrium, changing continuously, but without sudden disruption. This stability is not stillness. It is motion slowed to a sustainable pace. For living organisms, this slow tempo creates opportunities. Plants adapt to consistent conditions. Animals develop behaviors suited to predictable seasonal rhythms. Life adjusts itself to a world where change is gradual and rarely abrupt. The mountain teaches patience through example. For humans, encountering mountain time often produces a subtle shift in perception. The body responds to the absence of rapid change. The mind notices the lack of urgency. Attention becomes broader, less focused on immediate outcomes. Standing in a mountain landscape, it becomes difficult to maintain a sense of hurry. This effect is not symbolic, it is physiological. Environments shaped by long-term stability and low-intensity stimulation encourage the nervous system to reduce alertness and conserve energy. The mind mirrors the environment it inhabits. In the presence of mountains, the pace of thought often slows. Time in the mountains also reveals continuity beyond individual lives. Human histories unfold briefly against slopes that have existed for millions of years. Settlements come and go. Paths shift. Cultures change. The mountains remain, altered only slightly by each passing era. This contrast does not diminish human experience. Instead, it places it within a wider context. To observe mountains is to be reminded that time does not always rush forward. Sometimes it circles, sometimes it accumulates, sometimes it waits. Mountains do not measure time by productivity or progress. They measure it through persistence, through pressure applied steadily, through transformation that unfolds without announcement. In this way, mountains offer an alternative understanding of time, one that values duration over speed, continuity over urgency, and presence over outcome. As these immense forms continue to rise, erode, and reshape themselves, they carry the quiet assurance that change does not need to be fast to be meaningful. Time, in the mountains, is not something to manage. It is something to inhabit. And as we begin to sense this deeper rhythm, we are naturally led to consider how time, elevation, and atmosphere come together, shaping the unique climates found high above the surrounding land. As land rises into the air, the climate begins to change. This shift does not happen suddenly. It unfolds step by step, following a set of physical patterns that repeat across mountain ranges around the world. As elevation increases, the atmosphere becomes thinner, temperatures drop, winds behave differently, and moisture moves in new ways. These changes shape not only the landscape, but everything that lives upon it. Altitude introduces a quieter version of weather. One of the most consistent features of mountain climate is the gradual decrease in temperature with height. As air rises, it expands and cools. This process happens everywhere, but it becomes especially noticeable in mountainous terrain, where elevation changes quickly over short distances. A valley may feel warm and sheltered, while a slope just above it holds cooler air. Higher still, temperatures drop enough for snow to persist long after it has melted below. This vertical layering of temperature creates distinct zones, each with its own rhythm. Cold in the mountains is not sudden, it is cumulative. Air pressure also decreases with altitude. The atmosphere becomes lighter, holding fewer air molecules. This thinning of the air affects how heat is retained and how moisture behaves. Water evaporates more easily. The sun's radiation feels stronger, even as the air itself remains cool. The result is a climate of contrasts. Bright light paired with low temperatures, clear skies interrupted by sudden changes. Wind patterns are also shaped by elevation. As air moves across uneven terrain, it is lifted upward along slopes and ridges. This upward motion causes the air to cool, leading to cloud formation and precipitation. The side of a mountain facing prevailing winds often receives more rain or snow, while the opposite side remains drier. This phenomenon, known as orographic precipitation, gives mountains a powerful role in directing weather. As moist air rises, clouds gather, rain falls, snow accumulates. When the air descends on the other side, it warms and dries, creating sheltered regions beyond the peaks. In this way, mountains quietly influence climates far beyond their own boundaries. They do not create weather, they shape it. Seasonal changes are often more pronounced at altitude. Winters tend to be longer and colder. Snow may remain on the ground for months, sometimes year-round at higher elevations. Summers, when they arrive, are brief and mild, marked by cool nights and clear mornings. These seasonal patterns establish a steady cadence. Growth occurs within narrow windows. Dormancy lasts longer. Life adjusts to a climate that favors patience. Snow plays a central role in mountain climates. More than frozen water, it acts as insulation. A layer of snow protects the ground beneath it, maintaining more stable temperatures in the soil. It also stores water, releasing it slowly as it melts, feeding streams and rivers long after winter has passed. In this way, snow becomes a form of delayed rainfall. Ice, too, shapes mountain environments. Glaciers form where snow accumulates faster than it melts. Over time, the weight of compressed snow turns it into dense ice that moves slowly downhill. This movement is quiet and steady, reshaping the land beneath it. Even when glaciers retreat, their influence remains in the climate and terrain. Sunlight behaves differently at altitude. With thinner air, there is less filtering of solar radiation. Light feels sharper, more direct. Shadows appear clearer. Yet despite this brightness, temperatures remain cool due to rapid heat loss in the thin atmosphere. This combination creates a distinctive sensory experience. Clear air, bright skies, and cool silence. Clouds in mountainous regions often form and dissolve quickly. Rising air cools and condenses, creating sudden fog or mist. These clouds may drift through valleys and over ridges, altering visibility without warning. Such changes are rarely violent. They are gentle, transient, and expected. Storms in the mountains tend to follow familiar patterns. Thunderstorms often build in the afternoon during warmer months, fueled by rising air and accumulated moisture. Snowstorms move steadily across ranges, depositing layers that may persist for months. Because these events repeat over long periods, the landscape adapts. Slopes stabilize. Vegetation aligns with exposure and shelter. Life organizes itself around predictable conditions. Mountain climates favor consistency over comfort. Temperature extremes are moderated by the terrain itself. Deep valleys trap cooler air at night, while ridges remain exposed to wind. South-facing slopes receive more sunlight, warming earlier in the day. North-facing slopes retain snow longer and remain cooler. These subtle differences create a patchwork of microclimates within a single mountain range. Within this patchwork, plants and animals find niches that suit their needs. Some species thrive in sheltered hollows, others prefer exposed ridges. Each climate zone supports life adapted to its specific conditions. The mountain does not impose a single climate, it offers many. At night, mountain climates often become especially calm. Temperatures drop steadily, winds soften, the air grows still and clear. Heat radiates away from the surface, creating a sense of quiet stability. Stars appear brighter in the thin air. Sounds travel farther. The environment feels open and spacious. This nocturnal cooling reinforces the mountain's role as a regulator. Heat gained during the day is released gradually. The system resets itself without effort. Over long periods, these climatic patterns shape entire ecosystems. Soil formation slows. Vegetation grows carefully. Water flows steadily rather than abruptly. The mountain becomes a place where extremes are softened by time and elevation. Climate at altitude teaches restraint. For those who spend time in mountain environments, the climate encourages a natural slowing of pace. Physical movement requires more energy. The cool air discourages haste. The rhythm of weather invites observation rather than reaction. The body adjusts, breathing deepens, attention widens. Mountains do not demand adaptation through force. They offer conditions that gently guide behavior, shaping life through steady influence rather than sudden change. As land rises and air thins, climate becomes an extension of the mountain itself, a quiet system of balance, repetition, and gradual variation. And within this climate, life finds ways to endure, adapt, and persist, leading us naturally to explore how plants and animals make a home in these elevated environments. Life in the mountains follows a quieter logic. At higher elevations, conditions become more demanding. The air grows thinner, temperatures drop, winds increase. Growing seasons shorten, yet life does not retreat. Instead, it adapts, slowly, precisely, and with remarkable efficiency. Mountain life is not abundant in the way tropical environments are. It is measured, balanced, economical. Plants that grow at high elevations tend to remain close to the ground. Many form low, compact shapes that reduce exposure to wind and cold. Leaves are often smaller, thicker, or covered with fine hairs, helping to retain moisture and reduce heat loss. Growth is slow but steady. In these environments, speed offers no advantage. Some plants take many years to grow only a few centimeters. Others bloom quickly during brief warm periods, completing their life cycle in a narrow window before colder conditions return. Energy is never wasted. Every process is carefully paced. Roots often spread wide rather than deep, anchoring plants to thin soils and capturing moisture from melting snow. These root systems also help stabilize slopes, preventing erosion and creating pockets of soil where other organisms can take hold. Vegetation in this way quietly prepares the ground for more life. Trees become fewer as elevation increases. At a certain height, known as the tree line, conditions no longer allow tall woody plants to survive. Beyond this boundary, shrubs, grasses, mosses, and lichens dominate the landscape. This transition is gradual. It unfolds without sharp edges. Above the tree line, the environment feels more open. The land stretches outward. The sky becomes more present. Life persists, but in forms that blend closely with rock and soil. Lichens are among the most resilient organisms at high elevations. Composed of fungi and algae working together, they can grow directly on bare rock. They tolerate extreme cold, intense sunlight, and long periods without water. Over time, they contribute to the slow process of breaking down rock into soil. Life begins where conditions seem least inviting. Animals living at high elevations also reflect this careful adaptation. Many are compact in size, reducing surface area exposed to cold. Thick fur, dense feathers, or layers of fat provide insulation. Some species develop larger lungs or higher concentrations of red blood cells, allowing them to function efficiently in thin air. Movement is deliberate, energy is conserved. Mountain animals often follow seasonal patterns. During warmer months, they take advantage of abundant food and milder conditions. As winter approaches, some migrate to lower elevations. Others enter periods of dormancy or reduce activity significantly. Hibernation for many species is not a retreat, but a strategy. By slowing metabolism and conserving energy, Animals survive long periods when food is scarce and temperatures are low. Even those that remain active during winter move with restraint. Paths are familiar. Sheltered areas are favored. Exposure is minimized. Birds living in mountain environments often display strong flight abilities, allowing them to navigate steep terrain and shifting winds. Some species use thermal currents rising along slopes to travel efficiently. Others remain close to the ground, relying on camouflage and stillness. Silence at altitude becomes a form of protection. Insects, too, adapt in subtle ways. Many complete their life cycles quickly during brief warm periods. Others remain dormant for much of the year, emerging only when conditions allow. Some produce natural anti-freeze compounds, protecting their cells from freezing temperatures. These adaptations are not dramatic. They are precise. Mountain ecosystems tend to have fewer species than lowland environments, but the relationships between those species are often tightly balanced. Each organism occupies a specific niche. Competition is limited by scarcity, and cooperation becomes essential. Plants provide shelter and food. Animals disperse seeds. Microorganisms recycle nutrients. The system functions with minimal redundancy, yet remarkable stability. At high elevations, life depends on predictability. Because conditions change slowly and follow consistent seasonal patterns, organisms can adjust their behavior and physiology accordingly. Sudden disruptions are rare. Extremes are expected and accounted for. This predictability contributes to the sense of calm often felt in mountain landscapes. The environment does not overwhelm with constant activity. It unfolds gently, allowing attention to settle. For humans observing these systems, the effect is often subtle but profound. The absence of excess, the restraint in growth and movement, and the steady rhythm of life create a feeling of balance. Nothing appears hurried. Nothing seems out of place. Mountain life also demonstrates resilience without force. Survival does not depend on dominance or speed, but on patience and alignment with the environment. Growth is careful. Movement is intentional. Rest is respected. In this way, life at high elevations reflects the character of the mountains themselves. It does not push against conditions. It works within them. As elevation increases, life becomes quieter, but no less complex. Each organism carries a history of adaptation, shaped by generations of gradual change. Each reflects a deep connection to place, and within this quiet network of life, another pattern becomes clear. The way these organisms arrange themselves vertically along the slopes, forming distinct layers that mirror the structure of the mountains themselves. Mountains are not uniform structures. They are arranged in layers. From the low valleys at their base to the exposed summits above, mountains change gradually with height. These changes are not abrupt. They unfold in a slow sequence, one zone blending into the next, guided by elevation, temperature, wind, and time. To move through a mountain is to move through a series of environments stacked vertically, each shaped by slightly different conditions. At the lowest elevations, where mountains meet surrounding landscapes, valleys form broad, sheltered spaces. Here, temperatures are milder, air is denser, and water is more readily available. Soils tend to be deeper, formed by long periods of erosion and sediment accumulation. Life is often more abundant in these lower zones. Plants grow taller, trees spread wide canopies, rivers gather strength as they collect water from higher slopes. These valleys serve as transition spaces, connecting the mountain to the world beyond it. They are places of movement and exchange. As elevation increases, slopes rise gently at first, then more steeply. The environment begins to change. Temperatures cool, winds become more noticeable. Soils thin as gravity and water gradually pull material downhill. This mid-elevation zone often supports dense forests where conditions remain stable enough for trees to grow, yet challenging enough to shape their form. Trunks grow straighter, branches angle upward, leaves adjust to shifting light and cooler air. These forests are shaped as much by restraint as by growth. The presence of trees in this zone creates a protective canopy, moderating temperature, slowing wind, and maintaining moisture in the soil. Beneath this canopy, smaller plants and animals find shelter, forming a layered ecosystem within the larger structure of the mountain. As one ascends further, the forest begins to change. Trees grow shorter, spacing between them increases, the growing season shortens. Snow lingers longer into the year. Eventually, a subtle boundary appears, the tree line. This is not a sharp border, but a gradual transition where conditions no longer support the vertical growth of trees. Cold temperatures, strong winds, and shallow soils make it difficult for tall plants to survive. Above this line, the landscape opens. Shrubs, grasses, mosses, and low-growing plants replace forests. The terrain feels wider, quieter, more exposed. The sky becomes a dominant presence. Sounds carry farther. The ground reflects the history of weather more directly. This alpine zone is shaped by simplicity. Plants here grow close to the earth, forming mats or clusters that reduce exposure. Rocks are more visible. Soil appears in patches, often created slowly by the breakdown of stone and organic matter. Life persists, but with careful economy. Higher still, vegetation thins further. The environment becomes dominated by rock, ice, and snow. Conditions are harsh, but predictable. Temperatures remain low. Wind shapes surfaces continuously. Water exists primarily in frozen forms. This uppermost layer is defined by endurance rather than growth. Snowfields and glaciers occupy these elevations, moving slowly across the landscape. Their weight compresses the ground beneath them, carving valleys and shaping ridges over long periods. The presence of ice alters light, sound, and temperature, creating a distinct atmosphere. In these high zones, life is sparse but resilient. Microorganisms, lichens, and occasional hardy plants find ways to exist in sheltered crevices. Animals pass through rather than remain, following seasonal patterns that lead them back to lower elevations. Each layer of the mountain reflects a balance between opportunity and limitation. These vertical layers are not isolated from one another. Water flows downward, carrying minerals and nutrients from higher elevations to lower zones. Air moves upward, cooling as it rises and shaping weather patterns across layers. Energy, matter, and life circulate continuously. Because of this circulation, changes in one layer influence all others. A shift in snowfall at high elevations affects river flow below. Changes in vegetation at mid-levels alter soil stability and water absorption. The mountain functions as a connected system, with each layer contributing to the whole. This interconnectedness creates stability. Over time, these layers become familiar to the landscape. Slopes adjust to consistent patterns of wind and weather. Valleys deepen gradually. Ridges sharpen or soften depending on exposure. The mountain finds a form that reflects its environment. This process does not require intervention. It happens through repetition. For those moving through mountains, the experience of these layers often produces a sense of progression. The body notices cooler air. Breathing changes. Movement slows slightly. Attention shifts outward. Each elevation invites a different pace. Lower zones encourage movement and activity. Mid-level forests invite stillness and observation. Higher elevations invite pause, reflection, and awareness of space. The mountain does not force these responses. They arise naturally from the environment. Even sound behaves differently across layers. Valleys carry flowing water and dense vegetation that absorbs noise. Forests filter sound, creating a soft, continuous background. Open alpine zones allow wind to travel freely, producing simple, steady tones. These acoustic layers contribute to the mountain's calming effect. Light, too, changes with elevation. In valleys, it is filtered by terrain and vegetation. Higher up, it becomes clearer and more direct. Shadows lengthen, colors soften. The landscape appears more spacious, less crowded. This gradual change in light reinforces the sense of ascent. Throughout these layers, the mountain maintains continuity. There is no sudden break, no abrupt shift from one world to another. Everything is connected by gradual transitions that allow life to adjust without stress. This layered organization is one of the mountain's most defining qualities. It allows complex systems to exist within a stable framework. It distributes resources efficiently. It creates niches without fragmentation. It supports life without excess. And in moving through these layers, whether physically or in imagination, the mind often mirrors the structure it observes. Thoughts become spaced. Attention settles into gentle steps. Awareness widens without effort. The mountain teaches organization through example. As these layers extend upward, they lead naturally to the foundation beneath them all, the thin, fragile soils that anchor life to stone and hold the memory of everything that has passed through them. Mountain soil is quiet, thin, and ancient. It does not announce itself. It lies close to the rock beneath it, shaped slowly by time, weather, and gravity. Compared to the deep, rich soils of valleys and plains, mountain soil may seem sparse, yet it carries a long history and plays a crucial role in supporting life at elevation. In the mountains, soil is never separate from stone. Most mountain soils begin as solid rock. Over long periods, physical and chemical processes slowly break this rock apart. Temperature changes cause expansion and contraction. Water enters small fractures, freezing and thawing, widening cracks grain by grain. Wind carries fine particles across exposed surfaces. This gradual breakdown is known as weathering, and it unfolds patiently without urgency. As rock fragments accumulate, organic material begins to mix in. Leaves, needles, roots, and microscopic organisms add layers of life to the mineral base. In mountain environments, this process is slow. Cold temperatures limit biological activity. Short growing seasons reduce the amount of organic matter available. The result is soil that forms carefully, layer by layer. Mountain soils are often shallow. In many places, they may extend only a few centimeters before giving way to solid rock. Gravity constantly pulls loose material downhill, redistributing soil from higher elevations to lower slopes and valleys. This movement creates a dynamic balance. Where slopes are steep, soil remains thin and unstable. Where terrain softens, small pockets of deeper soil form. These pockets become important anchors for vegetation, allowing plants to establish roots and stabilize the ground around them. In this way, soil and plants support one another. The composition of mountain soil varies widely depending on the underlying rock. Granite, limestone, volcanic rock, and sedimentary layers each produce soils with different textures and mineral content. These differences influence which plants can grow and how nutrients move through the system. Some soils drain quickly, allowing water to pass through with little retention. Others hold moisture longer, supporting a wider range of organisms. In all cases, soil acts as a mediator between rock, water, and life. Mountain soil is also shaped by climate. Cold slows decomposition. Organic matter accumulates slowly and breaks down at a measured pace. Snow cover insulates the ground in winter, protecting soil organisms from extreme cold and maintaining a more stable temperature below the surface. In summer, meltwater moves gently through the soil, carrying nutrients downward and feeding streams below. Because soil forms slowly in mountains, it is especially sensitive to disturbance. Once displaced, it may take centuries to rebuild. This fragility encourages balance within mountain ecosystems. Growth is measured. Disturbance is absorbed gradually. Stability depends on restraint. Roots play a critical role in maintaining mountain soils. They bind particles together, reduce erosion, and create channels that allow air and water to circulate. Even small plants contribute significantly, forming networks that hold soil in place against wind and rain. Beneath the surface, microorganisms work continuously. Bacteria and fungi recycle organic matter, releasing nutrients in forms that plants can absorb. These processes are subtle and steady, operating without interruption. Life below ground is as essential as life above it. In alpine zones, where vegetation is sparse, soil often appears patchy. Bare rock alternates with thin layers of earth. These patches reflect areas where conditions allow accumulation, sheltered hollows, cracks in stone, or places where snow lingers longer. Each patch represents a small success of persistence. Over time, these patches may expand, supporting new plants that further stabilize the area. Soil development becomes a collaborative process between geology, climate, and living organisms. Mountain soils also influence water behavior. They absorb meltwater and rainfall, releasing it slowly rather than all at once. This gradual release helps regulate stream flow, reducing sudden surges and maintaining steady water availability downstream. Even thin soils contribute to this regulation. As water moves through soil, it carries dissolved minerals, enriching streams and rivers that originate in mountain regions. These nutrients travel far beyond the slopes, influencing ecosystems at lower elevations. In this way, mountain soil extends its influence outward. Despite their apparent simplicity, mountain soils hold complexity within their structure. Layers may record past climates, shifts in vegetation, or periods of increased erosion. Each layer reflects conditions that existed long before the present moment. The soil remembers what the mountain has endured. For those who walk through mountain landscapes, the soil beneath their feet often feels firm, yet forgiving. It absorbs sound. It softens steps. It carries the quiet scent of stone, plant matter, and moisture. This sensory experience reinforces the mountain's calming presence. Mountain soil does not aim for abundance. It offers sufficiency. It supports life that is adapted, efficient, and patient. Nothing grows faster than conditions allow. Nothing takes more than the system can replace. The soil teaches moderation. As slopes rise and layers thin, soil becomes a boundary between what can grow and what must endure. It marks the limits of life, while also enabling it to persist where conditions are challenging. And as water gathers within these soils and flows downward, it connects the mountains to the broader landscape, preparing the way for rivers, valleys, and distant plains, shaped by the quiet work of soil and stone. Water and mountains are inseparable. Long before rivers reach valleys and plains, their stories begin high above, among rock, snow, and thin air. Mountains do not simply contain water. They receive it, store it, guide it, and release it slowly, shaping entire landscapes far beyond their own slopes. In many parts of the world, mountains are the quiet origins of fresh water. As moist air moves across rising land, it is lifted upward. Cooling as it ascends, the air releases its moisture in the form of rain or snow. This process repeats steadily, season after season, turning mountains into natural collectors of water. They do not pull water toward themselves. They allow it to gather. Snow plays a particularly important role in mountain water systems. During colder months, precipitation accumulates and remains stored as snowpack. This frozen reserve protects water from immediate runoff, holding it in place until temperatures rise. When snow begins to melt, it does so gradually. Meltwater seeps into soil, flows across rock, and gathers in small channels. These channels merge into streams, and streams become rivers, carrying mountain water downward through the landscape. Snow transforms time into flow. Ice extends this process even further. In high elevations where temperatures remain low year-round, snow compresses into dense ice, forming glaciers. These massive bodies of frozen water move slowly under their own weight, shaping the land beneath them while acting as long-term water reservoirs. Glaciers release water steadily over decades and centuries, even during dry periods. Their presence smooths seasonal extremes, providing a reliable source of fresh water long after snowfall has ended. Even as glaciers retreat, their influence persists. Rainfall behaves differently in mountain environments. Steep slopes encourage rapid movement, yet vegetation and soil slow water's descent. Roots absorb moisture. Soil holds and filters it. Rock fractures guide it underground. Much of the water that falls in mountains does not rush away. It lingers. This lingering creates springs, points where groundwater emerges naturally from the rock. Springs often appear unexpectedly, marking places where geological layers direct water back to the surface. These quiet sources feed streams year-round, even during dry seasons. Springs are among the most stable features of mountain landscapes. As water moves downward, it carries minerals dissolved from rock and soil. These minerals enrich downstream ecosystems, supporting plant growth far from the mountains themselves. Valleys owe much of their fertility to materials transported quietly by mountain water. In this way, mountains nourish distant lands without direct contact. The structure of mountain terrain shapes how water flows. Narrow valleys channel streams quickly. Broad basins allow water to spread and slow. Terraced slopes hold moisture longer, while exposed ridges shed it rapidly. Each contour influences the rhythm of water. Because of this complexity, mountain water systems tend to be resilient. When precipitation varies, storage in snow, ice, soil, and groundwater helps balance supply. Sudden changes are absorbed, extremes are softened. The mountain does not resist water, it regulates it. Seasonal cycles reinforce this regulation. In winter, water is stored. In spring, it is released. In summer, flow continues steadily. In autumn, systems prepare for renewal. This predictable rhythm supports life at every stage. Plants time their growth to water availability. Animals follow streams and seasonal flows. Entire ecosystems align themselves with the mountain's hydrological calendar. Mountain water also shapes sound and atmosphere. Streams create continuous, gentle noise. Water moving over stone produces rhythms that repeat without variation. These sounds blend with wind and silence, forming a stable acoustic environment. Such consistency is deeply calming. At night, mountain water systems become even quieter. Flow slows slightly as temperatures drop. Evaporation decreases. The soundscape simplifies, leaving only steady movement beneath the surface. The presence of water continues even when it is barely heard. Over long periods, water reshapes mountains themselves. Rivers deepen valleys. Glaciers carve wide corridors. Rain smooths exposed surfaces. These transformations are slow, unfolding over thousands and millions of years. Water does not rush to change mountains. It reshapes them patiently. Despite this shaping power, water remains gentle in its movement. It follows paths of least resistance. It adapts to terrain rather than forcing it. This adaptability allows water to persist even in challenging environments. Mountains and water exist in continuous dialogue. For those who spend time near mountain water, the effect is often immediate. The sight of flowing streams, the sound of distant rivers, the cool air near snowfields, all encourage stillness. Attention softens, breathing slows. The body responds to the same rhythms that guide the water itself. Mountain water teaches continuity. It shows how movement can be constant without being hurried, how change can occur without disruption, how energy can flow steadily without exhaustion. As water leaves the mountains, it carries with it the influence of altitude, time, and stone. It becomes part of a larger system, connecting peaks to plains, cold air to warm valleys, silence to distant landscapes. And as these waters travel onward, they extend the presence of the mountains far beyond the horizon, shaping regions that may never glimpse the peaks themselves. mountains do not end at their foothills. Although their peaks rise clearly into the sky, much of their influence extends quietly outward, traveling far beyond what the eye can see. Long after slopes give way to valleys and plains, the presence of mountains continues to shape land, water, climate, and life at a distance. Their reach is subtle, steady, and persistent. One of the most visible ways mountains influence distant landscapes is through water. Rivers born from snow, ice, and rain at high elevations carry mountain water across vast regions. As they flow, they transport minerals, sediments, and nutrients gathered along the way. These materials enrich soils far downstream, supporting fertile valleys and agricultural lands that may lie hundreds or even thousands of kilometers from the original peaks. A field may flourish without ever seeing the mountain that feeds it. Over long periods, rivers reshape entire regions. They carve channels through rock, deposit layers of sediment, and build floodplains. These floodplains become centers of life, settlement, and biodiversity, all sustained by materials that began their journey high above. The slow movement of sediment is one of the mountain's quiet signatures. Air, too, carries the influence of mountains outward. As winds encounter rising terrain, they are redirected, lifted, and cooled. Clouds form, rain falls. On the opposite side of the range, descending air warms and dries, creating rain shadows. These patterns shape ecosystems far from the mountains themselves. Deserts may exist because of mountains that block moisture. Forests may thrive because mountains guide rainfall towards certain regions. Entire climatic zones are influenced by the placement and height of mountain ranges. Mountains act as unseen architects of climate. Temperature patterns are also affected. Cold air formed at high elevations can descend into valleys, influencing nighttime temperatures. Seasonal snowpack reflects sunlight, cooling the surrounding atmosphere and moderating regional climates. Even distant weather systems carry traces of mountainous influence. The soil transported from mountains contributes to the formation of plains and deltas. Over time, rivers deposit fine particles at their mouths, building land outward into seas and lakes. Some of the world's most productive ecosystems, wetlands, estuaries, and deltas, owe their existence to materials eroded slowly from distant peaks. Mountains, in this way, build landscapes without moving. The influence extends beyond physical geography. Plant species adapted to mountain conditions may spread along river corridors, finding suitable habitats downstream. Animals follow water routes, connecting highlands to lowlands through seasonal movement. These pathways form biological bridges. Over long periods, mountain-shaped landscapes develop distinct rhythms. Flood cycles align with snowmelt. Growing seasons follow water availability. Ecosystems synchronize themselves with processes that originate far upstream. This synchronization creates stability. Even human history reflects the distant influence of mountains. Many ancient settlements arose along rivers fed by highland sources. Trade routes followed valleys shaped by mountain runoff. Cultures developed in response to landscapes formed indirectly by elevated terrain. Mountains influence without requiring proximity. In regions far from peaks, the presence of mountains may be felt only through steady river flow, fertile soil, or predictable seasonal weather. Yet these features are direct results of processes that began at altitude. The connection is continuous, even if invisible. Mountains also act as long-term regulators. By storing water as snow and ice, they release it slowly, preventing sudden extremes. By shaping wind and precipitation, they soften climatic transitions. By supplying sediment gradually, they allow landscapes to evolve without abrupt change. This regulation supports resilience across vast areas. When conditions shift, during dry periods or cooler climates, mountain systems often provide continuity. Meltwater sustains rivers. Elevated precipitation buffers drought. High terrain preserves cooler temperatures that influence surrounding regions. Mountains absorb variation, then redistribute balance. For those who live far from mountains, this influence often goes unnoticed. The land appears self-contained. The water seems local. The climate feels familiar. Yet beneath these impressions lies a network of connections stretching upward and outward. The mountain remains present, even at a distance. This quiet reach reflects the broader character of mountains themselves. They do not impose, they guide. They shape outcomes through persistence rather than force. Their influence is measured not in immediacy, but in duration. To understand mountains fully, one must look beyond their peaks. One must follow rivers, observe soils, notice patterns in wind and rain. Only then does their true scale become clear, not just vertical, but horizontal, extending across continents. Mountains shape landscapes they never touch, and in doing so, they remind us that place is rarely isolated. That stability often comes from distant sources, that what seems separate is often connected through slow, reliable processes. As water continues its journey away from the heights, and land continues to form from mountain-borne material, the influence of altitude remains woven into the fabric of distant worlds. From this wider view, we are naturally led to consider how humans have lived within these shaped landscapes, adapting, observing, and finding meaning in terrain quietly guided by mountains far away. Human presence in the mountains has always been shaped by restraint. Long before permanent settlements appeared, mountains were places of passage, observation, and careful movement. Their slopes offered resources, shelter, and orientation, but they also imposed limits. Life at elevation required attention to terrain, climate, and timing. Those who moved through mountains learned to listen first. The earliest human interactions with mountainous regions were often seasonal. Groups followed game along valleys and ridges, used high passes as corridors between regions, and sought shelter in caves or beneath overhangs during periods of cold. Movement was guided by water sources, predictable routes, and the changing seasons. Mountains were not conquered, they were navigated. As human knowledge of these landscapes grew, paths formed naturally. Repeated footsteps created trails. Trails followed contours that minimized effort and risk. Over time, these routes connected valleys, enabling exchange between distant communities. These early pathways respected the shape of the land. Settlements in mountain regions tended to appear where conditions allowed stability: sheltered valleys, sun-facing slopes, areas near reliable water sources. Villages were often small and dispersed, built with materials drawn directly from the surrounding environment. Stone, wood, and earth provided both structure and insulation. Buildings reflected the climate, with thick walls, low profiles, and simple forms that conserved heat and resisted wind. Human presence adapted to the mountain's pace. Agriculture in mountainous areas developed carefully. Terracing transformed steep slopes into stable surfaces, preventing erosion while creating space for cultivation. These terraces followed natural contours, blending into the landscape rather than altering it abruptly. Water was guided gently through channels, distributed evenly across fields. This approach favored sustainability over expansion. Livestock grazing followed seasonal rhythms. Animals moved to higher pastures during warmer months and returned to lower elevations as temperatures dropped. This vertical migration reduced pressure on any single area and allowed vegetation to recover. The mountain taught rotation and balance. Over time, cultural practices emerged in response to the mountain environment. Knowledge of weather patterns, soil behavior, and seasonal changes became essential. Stories, traditions, and rituals reflected respect for elevation, weather, and the forces that shaped daily life. In many cultures, mountains were seen not as obstacles, but as presences, stable, enduring, and worthy of attention. Trade routes crossing mountain ranges connected distant regions. Goods moved slowly along passes shaped by geography. These routes required cooperation, patience, and trust in predictable patterns. Travel was planned around seasons and conditions rather than schedules. Movement followed the mountain's terms. Even today, many roads and railways trace the same paths once used by foot and animal. The terrain has changed little. The logic of movement remains consistent. Human impact in the mountains has always been moderated by limitation. Steep slopes, thin soils, and variable weather restrict large-scale alteration. As a result, many mountain environments retain a sense of continuity that has been lost elsewhere. This continuity is not accidental. Where human presence has remained measured, mountain ecosystems have often persisted alongside it. Forests regenerate. Water flows remain steady. Wildlife adapts to predictable patterns of activity. The mountain does not tolerate excess easily. In more recent times, mountains have also become places of retreat and reflection. As lowland environments grew denser and more accelerated, mountain regions offered contrast. Cooler air, open views, and quieter soundscapes drew those seeking space and perspective. This attraction is not new. It reflects a long-standing human response to elevation and distance from constant stimulation. At altitude, the body slows naturally. Physical movement requires more effort. Breathing becomes deeper. Attention shifts outward. These physiological responses encourage a different way of being present. The mountain invites observation rather than action. Human presence in mountains has also been shaped by technology, but even modern tools do not erase the underlying constraints of terrain and climate. Roads curve, structures anchor to rock. Energy and resources must still be managed carefully. Despite advances, the mountain remains largely unchanged. Where human activity increases beyond what the environment can absorb, signs of imbalance appear quickly. Erosion accelerates, water systems shift, vegetation struggles to recover. These responses reinforce the mountain's limits. They are not warnings, they are feedback. In places where human presence aligns with the mountain's rhythms, the relationship remains stable. Communities adapt to seasonal cycles. Infrastructure respects natural contours. Movement remains deliberate. The mountain does not resist human presence. It responds to how that presence is expressed. Across continents and cultures, the patterns repeat, whether in high plateaus, rugged ranges, or gentle alpine regions. Human life in the mountains reflects adaptation rather than dominance. This pattern has endured for thousands of years. To observe human presence in the mountains is to see a dialogue between movement and stillness, need and restraint, curiosity and respect. It is a relationship shaped not by conquest, but by continuity. The mountain remains. Humans pass through, return, adapt. And as this long relationship continues, it leaves behind stories, paths, and meanings that extend beyond practical survival, leading naturally into the symbolic and cultural significance mountains hold across human history. Across cultures and across time, mountains have carried meaning. Long before they were measured, mapped, or climbed, mountains were observed. Their height, stillness, and permanence invited interpretation. Rising above the surrounding land, they appeared closer to the sky, more distant from daily movement, and untouched by ordinary rhythms. For many societies, mountains became natural symbols, not because they demanded attention, but because they quietly held it. In early human imagination, mountains were often seen as places where different realms met. Earth and sky appeared to connect at their peaks. Weather formed around them. Light changed as it moved across their slopes. These visual cues shaped stories that explained the world through presence rather than action. Mountains did not need to move to feel powerful. They simply remained. In mythological traditions around the world, mountains frequently appeared as homes of gods, spirits, or ancestral forces. Their elevation suggested distance from ordinary life, while their stability implied endurance beyond human time. These ideas emerged independently in many cultures, reflecting a shared human response to vertical scale and silence. The mountain became a place of watching rather than doing. In some traditions, mountains were seen as pillars that held up the sky. In others, they were imagined as the bones of the earth, ancient and unchanging. Stories described them as places of origin, where rivers began, where wisdom was revealed, or where cycles of life were renewed. These stories were not meant to be dramatic. They were meant to orient. Rituals connected to mountains often emphasized stillness, patience, and respect. Ascents were slow, paths were deliberate, silence was observed. The journey mattered as much as the destination, reinforcing the idea that mountains were not objects to be reached quickly, but spaces to be approached carefully. This approach reflected practical reality as well as belief. Cultural meanings attached to mountains often mirrored their physical characteristics. Their resistance to change suggested permanence. Their layered structure suggested depth. Their isolation suggested clarity. Over time, these qualities became metaphors for endurance, reflection, and balance. Mountains came to represent steadiness in a changing world. In art and storytelling, mountains were frequently depicted as backdrops rather than focal points. They framed scenes without dominating them. Their presence added scale and context, reminding viewers of a larger world beyond immediate action. This visual role reinforced their symbolic function. In literature, mountains often appeared as places of transition. Characters passed through them rather than remaining within them. The passage marked change, not sudden transformation, but gradual adjustment. The mountain passage slowed assurance, encouraged observation, and altered perspective. Movement through mountains mirrored internal shifts. In many cultures, mountains were also associated with cycles of renewal. Snowfall and melt represented return and release. Seasonal changes at altitude highlighted repetition rather than finality. These natural rhythms influenced stories about time, continuity, and return. The mountain became a reminder that change could be gentle. Cultural practices developed around mountains often emphasized harmony rather than control. Architecture followed contours. Settlements respected slopes and exposure. Sacred spaces were integrated into the landscape rather than separated from it. Human structures adapted to the mountain's form. Even as societies became more technologically advanced, the symbolic role of mountains persisted. They continued to appear in national identities, artistic expressions, and philosophical thought, not as challenges to be overcome, but as references, markers of scale, time, and perspective. Mountains did not lose meaning as knowledge increased. Their meaning simply became quieter. In modern culture, mountains are often associated with retreat. They represent distance from constant movement, from noise, from acceleration. This association is not arbitrary. It reflects the same sensory qualities that shaped ancient myths: open space, reduced stimuli, and slower rhythms. The symbolic and the physical remain aligned. Across languages and traditions, similar themes repeat. Mountains stand for patience, for endurance, for depth without excess. These meanings are not imposed. They emerge naturally from long observation. The mountain teaches by example. Unlike symbols that demand explanation, mountains invite contemplation. Their presence does not resolve questions. It holds them. This openness allows different cultures to attach meaning without conflict, each finding resonance in the same silent form. The mountain remains unchanged by interpretation. Stories shift. Beliefs evolve. Yet the mountain continues to stand, offering the same visual and sensory cues that inspired meaning in the first place. Its role as a cultural anchor persists because its physical qualities persist. In this way, mountains become shared references across time. They do not belong to a single tradition or narrative. They belong to the landscape, and by extension, to the human tendency to find meaning in what endures. To reflect on mountains in mythology and culture is not to catalogue stories, but to notice patterns. The same ideas appear again and again: elevation, silence, patience, continuity. These ideas arise because the mountain itself remains consistent. And as cultural meanings continue to gather around these forms, they add another layer to the mountain's presence, not altering it, but deepening the relationship between land and human perception. From here, it becomes natural to turn our attention from symbolic mountains to specific ranges, real places where geology, climate, and culture meet in distinct yet familiar ways. The Himalayas rise slowly into the sky, not as a single wall, but as a vast, layered presence. Stretching across multiple countries and climates, the Himalayas form the highest mountain system on Earth. Their scale is not immediately grasped by numbers or maps. It is sensed through distance, through the way air thins, sound softens, and time appears to widen. To approach the Himalayas is to encounter height as an experience rather than a measurement. These mountains are the result of a long geological conversation between continents. Millions of years ago, a landmass moving northward met another moving southward. Neither yielded easily. The Earth's crust thickened, folded, and rose. That slow pressure continues even now, lifting the range by small increments that accumulate over ages. The Himalayas are still becoming. As the land rose, ancient seabeds were carried upward. Layers of rock once shaped by water now stand thousands of meters above sea level. This vertical journey left traces throughout the range: folded strata, uplifted limestone, fossils embedded in stone at extreme altitudes. Deep time is visible here. Height in the Himalayas reshapes perception. As elevation increases, movement becomes deliberate. Breathing slows naturally. Sounds travel differently. Wind carries fewer interruptions. The landscape opens into broad forms, ridges, plateaus, and peaks that extend beyond the edges of vision. Silence is not empty. It is spacious. At high elevations, the atmosphere holds less moisture and fewer particles. Light appears clearer. Shadows sharpen. During the day, the sky feels expansive. At night, stars emerge with unusual clarity. The absence of visual clutter creates a sense of openness that gently draws attention outward. The Himalayas do not demand focus. They invite it. Climate varies dramatically across the range. Southern slopes receive moisture carried by seasonal winds, supporting forests and flowing rivers. Northern regions lie in rain shadows, where air descends warmer and drier. Snow accumulates at higher elevations, feeding glaciers that move slowly through valleys. These glaciers are among the largest outside the polar regions. Their presence reinforces the sense of time unfolding at a measured pace. Ice advances and retreats across centuries, shaping valleys, transporting rock, and storing water for distant regions below. Water waits here before moving on. The soundscape of the Himalayas is defined by continuity rather than activity. Wind moves steadily across ridges. Meltwater flows beneath ice and stone. Occasional rockfall echoes briefly, then fades. The absence of constant noise allows subtle sounds to become noticeable. Listening becomes easier. Life within the Himalayas adapts to narrow margins. Vegetation thins with altitude. Trees give way to shrubs, then grasses, then sparse alpine plants that grow close to the ground. Each species occupies a precise range, responding to temperature, soil depth, and exposure. Animals follow similar patterns. Some migrate vertically, moving between elevations with the seasons. Others remain year-round, conserving energy and relying on predictability. Adaptation favors efficiency, not abundance. Nothing grows quickly here. Human presence in the Himalayas reflects long observation rather than rapid change. Communities developed where conditions allowed. along valleys near water, on sun-facing slopes. Architecture aligns with terrain. Paths follow contours shaped by erosion and use over generations. Movement respects the land's form. Across cultures, the Himalayas have been associated with stillness and perspective, not as places of drama, but as environments where attention naturally shifts. The effort required to move, the clarity of air, and the scale of the landscape encourage awareness of breath, step, and time. This association arises from experience, not symbolism. Even for those who have never visited, imagining the Himalayas often produces a sense of distance from urgency. The mind slows in response to the idea of vastness and height. Thoughts stretch out, finding space between them. The mountain influences perception even from afar. Erosion continues its quiet work across the range. Wind sculpts exposed ridges. Ice smooths rock. Water deepens valleys. These processes are gentle in motion, powerful only through duration. Peaks rise and soften simultaneously, held in balance by opposing forces. Change happens without announcement. The Himalayas demonstrate how extremes can exist without chaos. Height does not create instability. Cold does not imply harshness. Silence does not signal absence. Instead, these qualities combine to produce equilibrium sustained over immense spans of time. Deep time is not abstract here, it is present. Standing in the Himalayas, one senses continuity that extends beyond human schedules. The land does not respond to urgency. It responds to pressure, repetition, and patience. This rhythm influences everything within it. The Himalayas do not offer answers. They offer scale. As a result, they often leave a lasting impression, not because of what happens there, but because of what slows down. Attention settles, breathing deepens, time stretches outward. In this way, the Himalayas embody the quiet essence of mountains everywhere. Height without hurry, silence without emptiness, and time that unfolds without needing to be measured. From these vast heights, our attention can now travel westward and southward, following another great mountain system, one that extends across an entire continent, shaping landscapes through length rather than height. The Andes do not rise in a single place. They extend. Running along the western edge of South America, the Andes form the longest continental mountain range on Earth. Rather than presenting themselves as one concentrated mass, they unfold as a continuous presence, stretching across deserts, forests, plateaus, and coastlines. To understand the Andes is to think in terms of distance rather than height. This immense range was shaped by the slow movement of tectonic plates as one section of the Earth's crust slid beneath another. Over millions of years, this steady convergence lifted the land, folding rock into ridges and plateaus that now extend across an entire continent. The Andes grew not in isolation, but in dialogue with the land around them. Because of their length, the Andes pass through many climates. In the north, they rise near tropical forests and warm air. Further south, they cross dry regions where rainfall is scarce. In the far south, they meet cooler climates shaped by wind and ocean currents. The same mountain system holds many environments. This variation creates a remarkable range of landscapes. Snow-covered peaks stand above dry valleys. High plateaus open into wide horizons. Steep slopes descend toward narrow coastal plains. Each section of the Andes reflects local conditions while remaining connected to the whole. Continuity does not require uniformity. One of the most distinctive features of the Andes is their role as a divider and connector at the same time. On one side, moisture from the ocean is lifted by the mountains, creating rain in certain regions. On the other, descending air produces dry conditions, shaping deserts and arid plateaus. These contrasts exist side by side. Water systems originating in the Andes extend far into surrounding lands. Rivers flow eastward toward vast basins, feeding forests and plains. Others travel westward, crossing short distances to the sea. Snow and ice stored at high elevations release water gradually, sustaining ecosystems far below. The Andes distribute life through water. High plateaus within the range create unique environments. At these elevations, the land opens into broad, gently rolling spaces surrounded by peaks. The air is thin, temperatures fluctuate widely, and vegetation adapts carefully to exposure and cold. These plateaus feel both elevated and expansive. Life in the Andes reflects adaptation to length and variation, rather than extreme height alone. Plants and animals adjust not just to altitude, but to distance, isolation, and climate shifts along the range. Species may thrive in one section and disappear in another, replaced by forms better suited to local conditions. The Andes encourage diversity through extension. Human presence in the Andes has long been shaped by this continuity. Communities developed along valleys and plateaus, connected by routes that followed the spine of the range. Travel moved north and south more easily than east and west, reinforcing the mountains as a guiding structure. The range became a pathway as much as a barrier. Agriculture in the Andes adapted to slopes and climate through terracing and careful water management. These practices aligned with the mountain's form, allowing cultivation without eroding the land. Crops were chosen for resilience and timing rather than speed. The mountains shaped the method. Culturally, the Andes often functioned as a backbone of identity. Rather than being seen as a distant boundary, they were experienced daily, visible, navigable, and integral to movement and survival. Their length reinforced a sense of continuity across regions. The Andes connected distant communities through shared rhythms. Sound and silence in the Andes vary along the range. Wind moves steadily across high passes. In valleys, water flows with consistency. The openness of the terrain allows sound to travel without clutter, creating simple, repeating soundscapes. This acoustic clarity mirrors the visual experience. The Andes also influence time perception. Traveling along them reveals gradual change rather than sudden transition. Landscapes shift slowly. Climate adjusts step by step. The journey emphasizes patience and observation. Movement becomes measured. Unlike compact mountain ranges, the Andes do not overwhelm through vertical dominance alone. Their power lies in persistence. They remain present across thousands of kilometers, shaping land, water, climate, and culture through sustained contact. They are mountains experienced over time. Erosion works continuously along the Andes, softening slopes, carving valleys, and redistributing material. Rivers carry sediment far from the range, extending its influence outward. The mountains lose material slowly, yet remain. Change is spread thin across distance. The Andes illustrate how scale can be horizontal as well as vertical. Their impact is not concentrated in a single dramatic peak, but distributed across a continent. This distribution creates resilience, allowing the system to absorb variation without losing coherence. Length becomes strength. For those who imagine or traverse the Andes, the effect is often one of steady progression. The land invites forward movement without urgency. Attention widens. The sense of direction becomes more important than destination. The Andes do not rush the traveler, they accompany them. As a continental spine, the Andes hold together many different landscapes under one continuous structure. They shape climates without enclosing them. They guide water without containing it. They influence cultures without isolating them. They extend rather than dominate. From this vast linear presence, our attention can now turn to a different kind of mountain experience, one shaped by proximity, refinement, and balance, where mountains rise within a more compact landscape and interact closely with human life. The Alps rise with a different kind of presence. Unlike vast ranges that stretch across continents, the Alps occupy a more compact space, nestled within the heart of Europe. Their peaks are prominent yet familiar. Their slopes are dramatic yet accessible. The Alps feel close, not only in distance but in relationship. They are mountains shaped as much by time as by touch. Form is one of the defining qualities of the Alps. Over millions of years, uplift and erosion have worked together to refine their shapes. Sharp ridges stand beside rounded valleys. Steep faces descend into wide basins. The contrast between vertical and horizontal is clear, yet harmonious. Nothing feels excessive. Everything feels placed. Glaciers once covered large portions of the Alps, moving slowly through valleys and carving smooth, U-shaped forms into the rock. As the ice retreated, it left behind clear contours, open corridors, and balanced proportions. Lakes formed where glaciers once rested, reflecting peaks and sky with calm precision. The landscape carries memory without tension. The Alps are considered an older mountain system when compared to some of the world's highest ranges. This age is visible in their softened lines. Peaks remain high, but their edges have been shaped by long exposure to wind, water, and ice. Valleys feel settled, as if they have found their place. Time has polished the Alps. Because of their position within a densely inhabited region, the Alps have long existed in close relationship with human life. Towns, villages, and pathways appear throughout the range, often integrated seamlessly into the terrain. Settlements follow natural contours. Structures respond to slope, exposure, and climate. Human presence feels measured here. Proximity does not diminish the mountain's presence. Instead, it changes the way it is experienced. The Alps are not distant silhouettes. They are daily companions, visible from windows, roads, and fields. Their forms frame ordinary life without overwhelming it. This closeness encourages familiarity. Agriculture in the Alps reflects balance and adaptation. Meadows occupy gentle slopes. Forests stabilize steeper terrain. Pastures shift with seasons, allowing land to recover. These practices align with the mountain's rhythms rather than pushing against them. The land responds with continuity. Water flows through the Alps in clear, steady paths. Snowmelt feeds streams that move through valleys, connecting high elevations to surrounding lowlands. Rivers born here travel outward, shaping landscapes far beyond the range itself. The Alps extend their influence quietly. Climate in the Alps varies with elevation and exposure, but remains moderated by the range's structure. Cold winters bring snow that insulates the ground. Summers are mild, with cool nights and clear air. Weather changes are noticeable, but rarely abrupt. This moderation supports stability. Sound behaves gently in the alpine environment. Valleys soften echoes, forests absorb noise, wind moves steadily across ridges. The result is a soundscape that feels continuous and predictable, allowing attention to rest without interruption. Silence here is not empty, it is balanced. The visual experience of the Alps reinforces this sense of harmony. Light shifts gradually across slopes. Shadows define form without obscuring detail. Colors remain clear and natural, shaped by vegetation, stone, and seasonal change. The landscape invites observation rather than reaction. Culturally, the Alps have often represented balance between effort and rest. Movement through the range requires attention, but not urgency. Paths are well defined. Transitions between elevations are gradual. The journey emphasizes rhythm over speed. The mountain does not resist, it guides. Over centuries, this balance influenced art, architecture, and ways of living. Buildings align with slope and sun. Materials reflect local stone and wood. Human structures echo the mountain's forms without replicating them. The result is coherence rather than contrast. The Alps demonstrate how mountains can coexist closely with human life while maintaining their essential character. Their presence remains calm, grounded, and consistent, even amid continuous interaction. They do not withdraw. They do not dominate. Instead, the Alps offer a model of proximity without pressure. They show how landscapes shaped by deep time can remain accessible, integrated, and stable. For those who encounter the Alps, whether in person or imagination, the experience often feels grounding. The land does not overwhelm with scale alone. It reassures through form, balance, and continuity. The mountain becomes part of the rhythm of life. As the Alps rise and settle within their familiar shapes, they lead naturally toward a broader reflection. How mountains everywhere, regardless of scale or location, offer refuge, places where stability, protection, and continuity quietly endure. Mountains have long served as places of shelter, not only because they rise above the surrounding land, but because their structure naturally softens extremes. Within their folds, slopes, and valleys, mountains create spaces where life can persist with greater stability, even when conditions beyond them become uncertain. Shelter in the mountains is rarely a single location. It is a pattern. The terrain itself provides protection. Valleys reduce exposure to wind. Slopes block harsh weather from one side, while allowing warmth and light from another. Rock formations offer natural barriers against temperature fluctuations. Snow insulates the ground rather than freezing it completely. The mountain reshapes the environment into a series of buffered spaces. This buffering creates microclimates, small zones where conditions differ subtly from the surrounding area. These microclimates allow plants and animals to survive where they otherwise could not. Cold air settles into hollows, Warmth lingers on sun-facing slopes. Moisture collects in shaded areas. Life finds refuge in these variations. For animals, mountains provide shelter in movement as well as stillness. Steep terrain offers places to hide, paths difficult for predators to reach, and elevated vantage points for observation. Seasonal migration between elevations allows species to escape extreme cold or heat without leaving the region entirely. The mountain offers vertical refuge. Plants benefit from shelter in quieter ways. Forested slopes protect soil from erosion. Root systems stabilize the land. Vegetation reduces the impact of rain and wind, preserving moisture and nutrients. Even sparse alpine plants contribute to protection by anchoring soil and snow. Growth becomes possible through protection. Water systems within mountains further reinforce this role. Snowpack stores water during cold months. Soil and rock absorb meltwater, releasing it gradually. Springs emerge in protected locations, providing reliable sources even during dry periods. Shelter here includes continuity of supply. Human use of mountains has long reflected this protective quality. Throughout history, people have sought mountain valleys during times of heat, flood, or conflict. Elevated terrain provided cooler temperatures, defensive advantages, and isolation from disturbances below. But protection was never absolute. Instead, mountains offered relative safety, a slowing of forces rather than their elimination. Storms were softened, temperatures moderated, change arrived gradually. This gradualness is central to the mountain's sheltering role. Mountain environments also protect time. Processes unfold slowly. Soil forms over centuries. Forests regenerate at measured rates. Water cycles repeat with consistency. These rhythms allow ecosystems to recover from disruption more easily than in environments shaped by constant extremes. The mountain absorbs shock through patience. In many regions, mountains have acted as refuges for species during periods of climate change. As conditions shifted, cooler and more stable environments at higher elevations allowed plants and animals to persist, while surrounding lowlands changed more rapidly. These refuges preserved diversity. Even today, mountain regions often hold species found nowhere else, not because they are isolated completely, but because the environment remains stable enough to support long-term adaptation. Shelter here means continuity. For humans, the sensory qualities of mountains also contribute to their sheltering effect. Reduced noise, open space, predictable weather patterns, and slower rhythms create environments that encourage calm. The body responds to these conditions without effort. Breathing deepens, movement slows, attention settles. This response is not symbolic. It arises from the way mountain environments organize stimuli. There is less interruption, less visual clutter, fewer abrupt changes. The nervous system mirrors the landscape it inhabits. The mountain shelters the mind as well as the body. Shelter does not imply isolation. Mountains connect regions through passes and water systems. They provide pathways that guide movement gently rather than forcing it. Protection and connection coexist. The mountain does not close itself off. It shapes access. Continuity is perhaps the most subtle form of shelter mountains provide. Through long-term stability, They ensure that life, water, and climate patterns remain predictable. Even when change occurs, it does so within known boundaries. This predictability allows systems to endure. Erosion continues. Snow falls and melts. Rivers flow. Forests shift gradually. Nothing is frozen in place, yet nothing is rushed. The mountain shelters change itself. In this way, mountains stand as quiet refuges within a dynamic planet. They do not stop movement, they slow it. They do not eliminate pressure, they distribute it. Shelter becomes a quality of balance. As mountains continue to rise, erode, and reshape themselves, they maintain this role, offering protection without control, refuge without enclosure, and continuity without stagnation. They shelter life not by standing apart from it, but by holding it gently within their form. And as we turn our attention from shelter to the forces that continue to shape these landscapes, we arrive naturally at the quiet processes that transform mountains over time: wind, snow, ice, and water, working together without urgency. Mountains are often seen as symbols of permanence, yet they are always changing. This change does not arrive suddenly. It unfolds through quiet processes that work continuously, shaping form through repetition rather than force. Erosion, snowfall, and gradual movement transform mountains slowly, creating landscapes that feel stable precisely because they evolve at a measured pace. In the mountains, transformation is patient. Erosion is one of the most persistent forces at work. Wind moves across exposed ridges, carrying fine particles away grain by grain. Water flows over rock, finding small weaknesses and widening them over time. Ice expands and contracts within cracks, gently prying stone apart. Each action is subtle. Together they reshape entire ranges. Unlike dramatic events, erosion operates without interruption. It does not seek to remove mountains, but to refine them. Sharp edges soften, steep faces round slightly. Valleys deepen gradually, their shapes reflecting the paths water and ice have followed for thousands of years. The mountain learns to yield without collapsing. Snow plays a central role in this process. When snow settles on slopes, it does more than cover the land. It insulates the ground, protecting soil and roots from extreme cold. It adds weight, pressing gently against rock and vegetation. It stores water, holding it in place until temperatures rise. Snow pauses movement before guiding it onward. As snow melts, water moves slowly downward. It seeps into soil, flows beneath rocks, and joins streams. This meltwater carries minerals and fine sediments, continuing the work erosion began. The timing of this release matters as much as its volume. Gradual melt supports stability. In higher elevations, snow compacts into ice. Glaciers form and begin their slow movement across the land. Their pace is almost imperceptible, yet their influence is profound. Glaciers carve valleys, transport rock, and smooth surfaces through constant contact. Ice transforms through pressure, not speed. As glaciers advance and retreat, they leave behind distinct forms: wide valleys, moraines, polished stone. These features remain long after the ice has moved on, marking the landscape with the memory of slow passage. Transformation leaves traces rather than disruption. Wind also contributes quietly. In exposed areas, it sculpts rock faces, redistributes snow, and shapes vegetation. Plants grow lower and stronger where wind is constant. Snow gathers in sheltered areas, reinforcing patterns of accumulation and melt. The mountain organizes itself through exposure and shelter. These processes do not compete with one another. They work in coordination. Snow slows erosion by protecting surfaces. Meltwater continues it gently. Wind redistributes material. Gravity pulls loosened rock downward, where it becomes soil for future growth. Change becomes a cycle. Because these forces act slowly, mountain ecosystems adapt alongside them. Plants anchor soil as it forms. Roots follow fractures in rock. Animals adjust paths as terrain shifts subtly. Nothing is sudden enough to overwhelm the system. Stability emerges from gradual change. Over long periods, erosion lowers peaks and fills valleys. Mountains rise through tectonic pressure and soften through weathering at the same time. These opposing movements maintain balance, allowing mountains to persist without becoming static. The landscape remains dynamic, yet calm. Snow and ice also influence sound and atmosphere. Fresh snow absorbs noise, creating moments of near silence. Frozen surfaces reflect light differently, softening contrast. These sensory changes reinforce the feeling of stillness associated with mountain environments. Silence deepens as transformation continues. Even after snow melts, its influence remains. Moisture nourishes plants. Streams maintain flow. Soil retains water longer. The mountain carries forward the effects of winter into warmer seasons. Nothing is wasted. Erosion does not erase the mountain's identity. Instead, it clarifies it. Ridges align with prevailing winds. Valleys follow paths of water. The mountain becomes an expression of the forces that shape it, visible in every curve and slope. Form becomes a record of time. For those observing mountains, this slow transformation often feels reassuring. Change does not arrive as interruption. It arrives as continuation. The landscape remains recognizable even as it evolves. This continuity invites calm attention. Mountains remind us that transformation does not require urgency, that progress can be measured in centuries, that stability can coexist with constant change. Erosion teaches patience, snow teaches pause, time teaches balance. As these processes continue without rest, they prepare the mountain for what comes next. Not an ending, but another phase of quiet presence. And as transformation unfolds slowly across stone and snow, it leads naturally toward a final reflection on what mountains offer to those who observe them. A sense of calm, perspective, and deep continuity. And so, little by little, our journey through the mountains begins to settle into quiet. Tonight we moved slowly across rising land, from the birth of mountains deep within the earth to the long work of time, snow, wind, and water. We followed layers of rock and soil, streams flowing downward, and landscapes shaped far beyond the peaks themselves. We wandered through vast ranges, from the silent heights of the Himalayas to the long spine of the Andes and the balanced, familiar forms of the Alps. We observed how life adapts to elevation, how cultures grow alongside stone and slope, and how mountains offer shelter, stability, and continuity through slow transformation. And now, there is nothing left to explore. Only space to rest. Allow the calm that arose here to remain with you. A gentle reminder that there are still places in the world where nothing needs to be rushed, where time unfolds patiently, and where stillness carries meaning. If this quiet journey has brought you comfort, your presence here is already part of that. A like, a subscription, or a thought left in the comments helps other people find this same space of calm, one quiet mind at a time. You are always welcome to return, to wander through new landscapes, to learn gently, or simply to rest in the company of slow ideas. For now, just slow down. Feel your body relax, your breathing grow deeper and steadier, your thoughts becoming lighter, like clouds drifting above distant peaks. May the steady rhythm of the mountains carry you softly into rest. Good night.